What was something hugely popular that suddenly fell off the face of the earth? I know a guy who saw the fidget spinner thing coming. He mass-produced a bunch of them, sold through the entire stock, then sold his company immediately after and bowed out right before the whole thing cratered. I sort of feel sorry for whoever he left holding the bag. But man, those things just didn't stick around long. I don't know about feeling bad for the bag holders. Some stuff is just so obviously a short-lived fad. Only an idiot would have thought they'd be selling only fidget spinners for years. Do the Harlem Shake. I went to a wedding reception in 2019 where the whole wedding party danced to a montage of different songs, and then right at the end Harlem Shake. Seeing people in tuxes and fancy dresses do that was pretty amusing. As was explaining to the older people at the reception that what they just witnessed was a craze from like 5 years previously. To the older people, probably to the younger people as well. That's what came to mind too. Simpler times. That mustache thing? Like early 2010s, every girl had mustaches on everything. Mustache bags, pencil cases, clothes, etc. Remember when Lyft first started and people identified themselves as Lyft drivers by having a giant fuzzy pink mustache on their front bumper? And you have just pinpointed the moment when mustaches became lame. The moment a meme is used for marketing, it's dead. I'm going to seem old but didn't understand the popularity or the sudden disappearance. I remember seeing girls with the index finger mustache tattoo and thinking, oh, someday soon you're going to regret that. 3D TVs. I am not sure if I would call them hugely popular, but at CES one year they were super popular, and by the following year there was barely one in sight. There was almost no content produced, and they were insanely expensive. I actually had a 3D ready TV, but the glasses themselves cost something like $150 a piece. I said fuck that. When HD came out, everyone bought a new TV. The TV companies wanted to get everyone to buy a newer TV, so they keep coming up with gimmicks like 3D TVs and curved TVs, but people are not buying them. So there was a lot of hype but low sales. Probably Game of Thrones. I don't even see many memes about the ending being bad anymore. No one talks about it. Good answer. I was all ready to slap down $100 to $150 for the full series on Blu-ray and was waiting for it to finish before I bought any seasons, and so glad I did because now I would even pay $50. This is the answer. It went from being one of the universally loved shows of all time to being absolutely hated within half a season. I don't recall any other show that fucked over its fanbase so comprehensively. It was on a decline for several seasons before the end, but somehow still managed to take a nosedive in the last season. Crazy how something that was a gigantic cultural phenomenon of a show just became irrelevant instantly thanks to one bad season. Are those fidget spinners still around? I used one in the hospital after some trauma, and it was great. I didn't have the mental energy for Netflix, reading, or audiobooks. I loved my fidget spinner, and wiggling my toes in brightly colored socks. Fidget spinners, great hospital gifts. Was it given to you as a form of therapy? I ask because a study showed that playing Tetris within the first 6 hours after a trauma can reduce PTSD symptoms. The theory is that it stimulates the same mechanism that EMDR is based on. There are certain patterns of movement that have this really calming effect on the brain and make processing trauma easier. Psychologists have been using either a row of blinking lights or a physical metronome-like device to activate this response in patients for years. Holy shit. When I broke free of my abusive home and moved out on my own, I meditated to Tetris like 4 hours a day. It was the absolutely only thing that could calm me down and make the stress go away. My OG Game Boy never played anything except Tetris. God damn, do I miss Game Boy Tetris. You should download a Game Boy emulator and the ROM and have some more fun with it. If you've got any computer or an Android phone, you can easily run it. Furbies. Not that I mind. Those things were creepy. Mine turned on by itself. I threw it out the window. Mine did too and started talking in my closet. Scariest shit for a grade schooler to hear. I'm an adult, and one of those things scared the shit out of me. I'm sitting at home, completely alone. All of a sudden I hear a voice coming from my kids' room. My kids are at their mom's. There shouldn't be voices coming from there. Go check it out, and it's a fucking Furby. That thing got buried in the closet real deep after that. And the next morning it's on your desk. I had an African gray parrot growing up and we got a Furby to see if they would talk to each other. First day, Zimmy, parrot, climbed down her cage, marched over to the window, climbed up a lamp cord and ripped that Furby to shreds. It could still talk, but it looked like something out of a nightmare. Pokemon Go. Sure, it still exists, but there was one summer that it united the world. I still get on it from time to time. Summer 16 was such a crazy time. I wish that feeling would have lasted forever. I spent hours walking around a Revolutionary War site with about 100 other people every night for a month straight when it was new. We'll never get another summer like that. The summer of Pokemon Go was the closest that we will ever be to achieving world peace. Silly bands, anybody? They come in cycles. All three of my kids got into them at different times. Those commercials that try and sell you wallpaper for your phone. Not the wallpaper but the ringtones. Some of them would ask like €7 monthly for a shitty cartoon character yelling at you as a ringtone. Never ever knew someone IRL that paid for that. Different colored ketchups. There was one color I would not eat. It made me gag. I think it was the purple one. The purple ketchup tasted different. It smelled different. They claimed it was all the same stuff to make it, just food coloring. But if that's true, that food coloring did something extreme to it that they just denied that it did. I'm not saying it was bad. I'm certainly not saying it was good. But that purple stuff did not taste like ketchup. Pogs. Oh man. I still have my tube of Pogs somewhere in the attic. Hundreds of them. Much like Alf. Remember Alf? Imagine if he came back, in Pog form. MySpace. Everyone seemed to piece out of it at the same time. It was good for posting music online, and then they lost all the music with a bad migration. I'll never forgive them for the music I lost from my band around 2006 or 2007. Yeah, I missed that about MySpace. It was a social media site that was also sorta like Bandcamp. There were so many oddball and unique indie artists and bedroom producers you could find on there. I was one of the last holdouts. I watched it go from a thriving community to a ghost town in 2009. Still think it was far superior to Facebook. It was loads better than Facebook for sure. Only because MySpace died too early to become the villain. Facebook was great when I was in high school, before I had a smartphone that connected me to it 24/7. Bacon fetish. For like a decade in the early 2000s, people wouldn't shut up about how bacon was the best thing ever. T-shirts, bumper stickers, memes, aprons, etc. That shit was everywhere. And these days bacon is just a normal food again. The Nawa bacons at midnight. Yahoo Games. I used to play so much pool on Yahoo. Fall Guys. As soon as Among Us came out, there were being memes for 2 weeks, and then everyone just kind of forgot about it. It has a huge boost being free on PS Plus. Oppa Gangnam Style. I don't care that people started to hate on it, and then it disappeared. It brought a ton of joy to the world, and I will always love it for that. Only fell off here. In South Korea, PSY has his own successful record label. Also, didn't he release other songs that were really successful too? Gentleman comes to my mind immediately as his number 2 success. Ponchos. It felt like every girl was wearing them in the 2000s, and then I've never seen one since. When someone asks me, "Do you have a poncho?" I don't say no. Instead I say, "Not right now," because I do have a blanket and some scissors. I am never more than 2 minutes away from owning a poncho. That was the shortest-lived trend of the 2000s. Every store was full of them for about 3 months in 7th grade, then nobody ever wore them again. Squid Game. I'm from the future. That's about 90% of popular Netflix shows though. The downside to releasing the entirety of a show at once. Internet chat rooms. AIM. They went full circle with Discord. It feels like the old chat rooms of the 90s, early 2000s. Both the good and bad, but they filter bots a hell of a lot better now. Flash animations. Came about in the late 90s, early 2000s. Before Flash was officially retired, it died a slow death. I used to send e-cards all of the time that used Flash. I was a boy crazy 5th grade girl and found a bunch of suggestive but funny e-cards about cute animated guys with songs like "It's Raining Men" that I would send to my friends. Monster High. I remember they were very popular in the mid-2010s. I owned so many dolls and watched all the movies. There were so many. But once I outgrew them, I barely ever heard from them again. Tamagotchi died pretty quickly. In retrospect, it kinda sucked. The thing would die if you didn't sneak it into school and feed it 24/7. They're seemingly fairly common amongst kids again. My daughter got one as a present, and I ended up having to take it to work and feed it for her throughout the day because she would be devastated whenever she got home from school to find it dead. I felt really grown up sat at my office desk feeding a fucking Tamagotchi multiple times a day. Anyway, she was only interested for a week and now it's hidden at the back of a drawer, haha. What was once hugely popular but suddenly disappeared? Leave a comment and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more videos like this one.